today's mindful moment, packed with insights but designed to fit into your busy life. One deep dive at a time. Okay, so we're diving into the life of Volodymyr Zelensky.
You know him, right?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? The Ukrainian president.
The guy in the army green t-shirt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Leading his country against Russia. But
Before the war, right.
right before the war, before the memes even.
Zelensky was a comedian,
Yeah.
a performer, someone who, spent years...
Satirizing.
Yeah, satirizing the very system that
He now leads.
It's amazing.
So we're going beyond the headlines.
Really trying to figure out...
How that journey shaped the man.
We see today, and this is fascinating, we have The Showman,
Okay.
a biography by Simon Shuster.
This isn't...
This isn't just some, dry timeline of events.
No.
It's a deep dive into Zelensky's...
Personality.
Yeah, his personality, his motivations, and, the evolution of his leadership. It's really good.
And it's full of surprises. You think you know the story,
Oh, yeah.
but then you start reading and you realize there's so much more.
So much more to it.
Like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Exactly. And what makes this deep dive so compelling is that we're not just looking at, a wartime leader.
Right.
We're looking at how a comedian...
Someone who spent years making people laugh.
Yeah. Making people laugh became, a symbol of defiance.
On the world stage.
On the world stage.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
Zelensky's childhood, it wasn't exactly a fairy tale.
No.
He was born in Kryvyi Rih,
Kryvyi Rih.
this industrial city in southeastern Ukraine.
Yeah. Known for its, tough, gritty atmosphere.
Like a hard place.
Yeah.
And it seems like that environment really impacted him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It instilled this sense of resilience in him.
This practicality.
Yeah, practicality. You can see that throughout his life.
You can really see it.
Yeah. But, despite growing up in a place, known for its rough edges.
His family.
Super focused on education.
Incredibly focused.
Incredibly focused.
Yeah.
And that came right from his parents. I mean, his father was a computer science professor.
Wow.
Pushed him hard to excel academically. You can tell from the book.
Oh, yeah.
Education.
It was valued.
Highly valued in their household.
Highly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Zelensky clearly had, a sharp mind.
Oh, yeah.
He excelled in math.
Uh-huh.
But you sense his heart wasn't in it.
No.
He was drawn to something else.
Something more
Creative.
more creative, more expressive.
He was drawn to the stage.
The stage.
Even as a kid, he loved to perform.
to make people laugh.
Made people laugh.
Yeah.
And that pull towards comedy
It really took hold.
in
Yeah.
his teenage years.
Yeah.
So he forms,
He forms a comedy troupe
okay,
called Kvartal 95.
Call 95. And they became
Very cute.
incredibly popular.
Yeah.
Not just in Kryvyi Rih, nationwide.
Wow.
They were known for this sharp satirical humor.
Okay.
Their willingness to poke fun at authority figures.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like they're laying the groundwork for his future political career,
Yeah.
even though they didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, right? It
Yeah.
speaks to a deep-seated awareness
Of the political landscape.
of the political landscape, even though he wasn't directly involved at that point.
Right. So he's got this successful career in comedy,
Yeah.
but then comes the pivot.
The pivot.
How does a guy
I know.
who makes people laugh for a living end up running for president?
It's wild.
It really is.
Well, it wasn't a sudden jump.
Right.
There was this fascinating transition period
Okay.
where Zelensky starred in this TV show
Okay.
called Servant of the People.
Servant of the people.
And in the show, he played a fictional president,
Wow.
a history teacher
Okay.
who unexpectedly wins the election
Okay.
on an anti-corruption platform.
So life imitating art, almost.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And the show wasn't just some niche program. This was hugely popular in Ukraine.
Hugely popular.
It really captured the public's imagination.
Yeah.
And, it blurred those lines between Zelensky, the actor, and Zelensky, the potential...
Political figure.
Yeah, the potential political figure. It's fascinating.
And the show, it seems like it tapped into this deep well of public disillusionment
Yeah, for sure.
with the political establishment.
People were tired of
Corruption.
empty promises.
Yeah.
They saw in Zelensky's character, this fictional president,
Right.
a reflection of their own
Hopes.
hopes for change. Yeah, exactly.
And he capitalized on that sentiment
Brilliantly.
during his real life campaign.
Love
He
that. Same platform.
On the anti-corruption.
Anti-corruption platform, yeah, promising to clean up the system.
To be a voice for the people.
Be a voice for the people.
And to the shock of many, inside and outside Ukraine, he wins.
He wins!
The presidency in 2019 in a landslide.
Landslide victory. The comedian, the outsider.
Becomes the president.
It's a story that seems almost too good to be true.
Almost too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Yeah.
A real-life underdog story.
Yeah.
But, of course, the biggest test of his leadership was yet to come.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the full-scale Russian invasion.
Yeah.
In February 2022.
Okay, everything.
Everything. The comedian turned president
Yeah.
was suddenly
thrust into the role.
Yeah. Of a wartime leader.
Facing an existential threat.
Existential threat. It's, I mean, like something out of a movie.
It really is.
And in that moment,
yeah.
Zelensky's background, his understanding of performance,
of storytelling.
If storytelling became unexpectedly relevant. It wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about survival.
That really was.
Yeah. And that's where we really start to see
the depth of his leadership emerge.
Yeah. So we left off with Zelensky facing this looming threat of invasion, right?
Yeah. And as we know, those fears became reality in February 2022.
And the Showman, it like takes us into those first chaotic days of the war, those moments when like the world held its breath, wondering what Zelensky would do. Would he rise to the occasion or would he crumble under the pressure?
It felt like the whole world was watching.
Yeah.
Waiting to see how he'd respond. And what's striking is that despite like months of warnings from Western intelligence agencies, Zelensky himself seemed to downplay the risk of a full-scale invasion.
Right.
Even as Russian troops were amassing on the border. It's a bit perplexing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The book suggests that he might have genuinely believed that Putin wouldn't actually go through with it. You know, Zelensky had met Putin, had negotiated with him.
Yeah.
Perhaps he misjudged Putin's willingness to use brute force to achieve his goals.
It's also possible that Zelensky was trying to project calm, to avoid sowing panic among the Ukrainian people.
That's a key insight.
Yeah.
I think he was walking this tightrope.
Yeah.
Balancing the need to prepare for the worst, while also maintaining a sense of normalcy. Remember, he was a leader who understood the power of perception, of shaping narratives.
Totally.
Perhaps he didn't want to create a self-fulfilling prophecy by publicly acknowledging the full extent of the threat.
But when the invasion did come, it seems like it caught him and his team off guard.
To some extent, yes. The book describes those early days as just chaotic.
Yeah.
With a sense of disbelief hanging in the air. But what's remarkable is that despite that initial shock, Zelensky and his team, they didn't flee.
No.
They didn't try to negotiate.
They stayed.
Instead, they made a decision that would define his leadership. They stayed in Kyiv.
They chose to fight.
Exactly. They hunkered down in a bunker beneath the presidential compound and prepared to defend their country.
Wow.
It was a decision that surprised many.
Yeah.
Especially those who had underestimated Zelensky's resolve.
His resolve, yeah. And it was those early days of the war that we really saw his leadership style emerge. Yeah. It was raw, emotional, incredibly personal. He connected with people in a way that few world leaders ever do.
He understood that this wasn't just a military conflict.
No.
It was a battle for hearts and minds, a struggle for the very soul of Ukraine.
It really was.
He needed to rally his people to inspire them to resist, and he did that by speaking to them directly, honestly, and from the heart.
And we saw that in those iconic videos he posted on social media, right? Standing on the streets of Kyiv, defiant, surrounded by his advisors, telling the world that they weren't going anywhere.
Those videos were brilliant.
Yeah.
They showed the world that he wasn't some distant figurehead hiding in a bunker.
Right.
While others did the fighting. He was right there with them, sharing their risks, their fears, their determination. It was a powerful message of defiance of unity.
Unity, yeah.
And it resonated around the world.
Around the world. And those videos weren't just about inspiring Ukrainians, right?
Yeah.
They were also about shaping the way the world saw the conflict.
Absolutely.
He was crafting a narrative, portraying Ukraine as the underdog, the brave little country standing up to a bully.
Absolutely. He understood the power of perception, the importance of controlling the narrative. He knew that this wasn't just a military conflict. It was an information war, a battle for global opinion.
Yeah.
And he used those videos, those speeches, those social media posts to win that battle.
And he was remarkably effective.
Yeah.
He rallied international support, secured weapons and aid,
Uh-huh.
and painted Putin as the aggressor, the villain in this story.
And his background in comedy and performance proved to be a crucial asset.
Oh, interesting.
He knew how to connect with an audience, how to use humor, emotion, and storytelling to get his message across.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he managed to achieve something that many career diplomats had failed to do.
What's that?
He united the West in support of Ukraine.
It's pretty amazing. But the book also shows us the personal toll the war took on Zelensky.
Oh, yeah.
He was separated from his family, living under constant threat, facing the very real possibility of death.
There are moments in the book where you see the weight of responsibility just bearing down on him.
You can feel it.
The fear for his family's safety, the knowledge that his decisions could mean the difference between life and death for millions of Ukrainians.
It's heavy.
It's a heavy burden for anyone to carry.
There's that scene where he's talking to his wife on the phone,
Yeah.
and he tells her that this might be the last time she sees him alive.
It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
And it reveals the human being behind the public persona.
Yeah.
He's not some superhero impervious to fear or doubt.
Right.
He's a man facing extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
With remarkable courage and grace, and despite the danger, he never wavered in his commitment to his country.
But it wasn't just about personal courage. The book highlights the crucial role played by his military commanders,
Yes.
particularly General Valery Zelensky.
Zelensky is a fascinating figure, a career military man, someone who had been fighting the Russians in the Donbass for years before the full-scale invasion. He brought a level of experience and tactical expertise that Zelensky, with his lack of military background, simply didn't have.
Right, and it seems like they developed a strong working relationship,
They did.
a mutual respect that was essential to Ukraine's success in those early days of the war.
Exactly. Zelensky wisely seems to have recognized his own limitations and trusted Zelensky to run the military operations.
Wow.
And that trust allowed Zelensky to focus on what he did best.
Right.
Rallying international support, shaping the narrative of the war, and inspiring the Ukrainian people.
The book delves into the complexities of that relationship, the tensions that inevitably arise when a civilian leader and a military commander have to work together in such high-stakes situations.
There were moments of friction, disagreements over strategy,
Right.
but ultimately they seem to have found a way to work together effectively to leverage their respective strengths for the benefit of Ukraine.
And that dynamic, that ability to build trust and delegate responsibility proved to be crucial to Ukraine's resilience in the face of a much larger and more powerful adversary.
It highlights a key aspect of leadership,
Yeah.
knowing your own strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
and surrounding yourself with people who can fill the gaps.
Right.
Zelensky might not have been a military strategist,
Yeah.
but he was a master communicator, a motivator, and a symbol of defiance
Yeah.
that rallied the world to Ukraine's cause.
And that's what makes his story so compelling.
It is.
He's not a traditional war hero. He's a comedian,
Yeah,
an outsider who found himself thrust into a role he never sought,
right.
but ultimately embraced with extraordinary courage and determination.
And the book doesn't shy away from the complexities of his leadership, the challenges he faced, the mistakes that were made,
Yeah.
but it ultimately paints a portrait of a man who rose to the occasion, who defied expectations, and who, against all odds, led his country through one of the darkest chapters in its history.
So we've talked about Zelensky's leadership, his courage,
Yeah.
his ability to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this one aspect of The Showman
Yeah.
that I found really thought-provoking.
Okay.
The way it portrays Zelensky's relationship with the truth,
Oh, interesting.
especially in the context of war.
Yeah, it's an important point. The book highlights this tension right between the need to project strength and confidence to maintain morale and then the inherent ambiguity of war.
Right.
The truth in wartime is often elusive, it's fragmented, it's constantly shifting.
There's this scene early on
Yeah.
where Zelensky, on the very first day of the invasion,
Wow.
he reassures his mother that she'll be fine because she's the president's mom.
Wow.
It's a touching moment.
Yeah.
But it also reveals this instinct to project optimism, even in the face of extreme uncertainty.
That instinct to reassure, to project strength, I think it's part of what makes him an effective leader.
Yeah.
It allows him to rally people, to inspire hope when things look really bleak.
When things look bleak, yeah.
But it also raises questions about the balance between truth and morale,
Right.
especially during a conflict where information is often weaponized.
It's used as a weapon.
Yeah, it's a weapon.
And the book even suggests that Zelensky's tendency to downplay the threat of invasion in the months leading up to the war might have been influenced by this desire to maintain a sense of normalcy to avoid panicking the population.
It's a fascinating dilemma, isn't it?
It is.
How much truth can a leader afford to share?
Yeah.
When that truth might lead to fear, to chaos, to a breakdown of social order.
Right.
It's a balancing act with enormous stakes.
Huge stakes, and it becomes even more complex when you consider the information war.
Oh, yeah.
That was raging alongside the physical conflict.
Alongside the actual fighting.
Zelensky understood that perception was a battleground.
Which is battleground, yeah.
And he was a master at shaping the narrative.
He was.
He knew how to use media, both traditional and social, to project a certain image of himself, of Ukraine, to the world, the defiant leader.
Right.
The underdog nation fighting for its survival. It was a powerful narrative.
It was.
And it was incredibly effective in rallying international support.
Yeah, for sure. But as the war dragged on, the complexities of that narrative, the inherent messiness of reality started to emerge.
Things weren't so black and white.
No, not at all. And the book doesn't shy away from those complexities.
No.
It acknowledges the missteps, the instances where information coming out of Ukraine turned out to be inaccurate, perhaps even deliberately manipulated for strategic purposes.
There's that incident where a Ukrainian missile accidentally hit a residential building in Kyiv.
Oh, yeah.
And Zelensky's team initially blamed it on the Russians.
Right.
It later emerged that it was a Ukrainian missile. And the book explores the fallout from that incident, the damage to credibility, the questions it raised about the reliability of information coming out of a war zone.
It's a reminder that even with the best of intentions, even in the fog of war, mistakes happen, and in the age of instant communication, those mistakes can have far-reaching consequences.
They really can. And it also underscores the challenges of maintaining control of the narrative.
Right.
In a conflict where information spreads so rapidly and where every misstep can be exploited by the opposing side.
The Showman doesn't offer easy answers to these questions about truth and leadership in wartime, but it does offer a nuanced and thought-provoking exploration of these themes, prompting us to consider the complexities and contradictions.
Inherent in any conflict.
Inherent in any conflict, especially one as multifaceted as this one.
Absolutely. So we've delved into the life and leadership of Volodymyr Zelensky.
A man who went from comedian to leading his country through a war.
It's amazing. What's your final takeaway from this deep dive?
For me, The Showman ultimately reveals Zelensky as a deeply human figure, someone who is both flawed and inspiring.
Yeah.
He's a product of his experiences, his background, and the incredible challenges he's had to confront. His story is a testament to the power of resilience, the complexities of leadership, and the enduring hope that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can prevail.
It's a powerful reminder that behind the headlines, behind the political maneuvering, there are real people whose lives are being shaped by these events. And Zelensky's story is a testament to the fact that sometimes the most unlikely heroes emerge from the most unexpected places. The Showman is a fascinating read, a nuanced portrait of a leader navigating extraordinary circumstances, if you're interested in understanding the man behind the memes. I highly recommend checking it out.
Make sure to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. We're constantly exploring new and challenging ideas, things that make you question what you think you know.
And we've included a purchase link for the book in the show notes, just for you. Keep those minds sharp and never stop questioning. Until next time.